Welcome to today's verdict. I'm your host and trial attorney, David Lesh. We have two big guests today. Vanessa Potkin, the director of special litigation at the Innocence Project, and a returning guest, State Senator Luis Sepulveda, will be here. So stay tuned. Today's verdict has so much right now. All right, welcome back to today's verdict. I'm your host and trial attorney, David Lesh. We have with us today Vanessa Potkin, the director of special litigation at the Innocence Project. Vanessa, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, it's our pleasure. All right, so tell us a little bit about the Innocence Project. What is it and how did you get involved?
The Innocence Project is a nonprofit. We have been in existence for 31 years, founded in the early 90s. Basically, when DNA was first being used in criminal convictions and used in prosecutions, and our co-founders, Barry Scheck and Peter Neufeld, recognized that if this powerful new science could be used to identify who committed a crime, it could also be used to help those people who were wrongly accused and wrongly convicted of committing crimes. And so the Innocence Project was founded with the very specific mission in the early days to use DNA to exonerate wrongly convicted people. Throughout the years, our organization has grown and we've taken on policy reforms to not only help exonerate individuals who have been wrongly convicted, but make sure that we're enacting reforms to enable people to secure their exoneration and also prevent wrongful convictions in the future. So it's expanded, quite a bit over the past few decades.
I don't know if you can give us percentages, but what percentages are those who have been wrongfully committed that convicted that have been exonerated as a result of your DNA use?
Well, there have been about 375 DNA exonerations, and the Innocence Project has played a role in over 200 of those cases. But when you take into account cases that have DNA evidence and don't have DNA, just people who have been able to secure an exoneration from wrongful imprisonment, regardless of the type of evidence, nationwide since 1989, that number is almost 3,400 cases of wrongful conviction.
Why are people being wrongfully convicted? What's the reason for it?
There are a number of issues. Some of the leading causes of wrongful conviction involve false confessions. In the DNA cases, 1 out of 4 people, when interrogated, made admissions or confessed to crimes that they were completely innocent of. Faulty forensics is another leading cause of wrongful conviction. Oftentimes, we know what has come into court under the guise of forensic science later has turned out to be unscientific, invalidated, and nearly half of the people exonerated had faulty forensics as the basis of their wrongful conviction. And then we have official misconduct that involves police and prosecutors oftentimes not providing exculpatory information as they're required to under Brady and under the Constitution, the state and federal Constitution. And inadequate lawyering. So there are a number of factors, eyewitness misidentification, that we see, and there are a number of reforms that we can put into place to help reduce the number of wrongful convictions. But at the end of the day, this is a human system, and all these types of evidence, are fallible. And so we're never going to get it right 100% of the time. It's just impossible. And that's why the Challenging Wrongful Convictions Act is so important, because, part of what it does is, create mechanisms for people to get back into court who are actually innocent, and clarifies for courts, how these claims should be handled. And we have some really problematic bars right now in New York for innocent people that are in prison today.
What are some of the bars with respect to the Wrongful Conviction Act?
Well, first and foremost, right now in New York, people who pled guilty cannot bring a claim of actual innocence, cannot get relief if they're actually innocent unless there is DNA in their case. And I can, for a moment explain, just how problematic this is. When we look at the nation's wrongful convictions, it might be, surprising to people to know that out of those 3,400 people who have been exonerated nationwide, nearly a fourth of those people pled guilty to crimes that they were completely innocent.
Let me ask you, why do people plead guilty to crimes they did not commit?
So there are a number of reasons. One is because the cost of going to trial, what's referred to as the trial penalty, the cost of going to trial and losing is so significant versus the offer that the prosecution makes pre-trial. So, for example, I'm representing somebody in New York right now who's challenging his conviction. He was offered a 9-year sentence. If he pled guilty, he asserted his innocence, went to trial, and he was sentenced to 50 years. So sometimes the most rational choice for people is to accept the plea, because if you lose, it could mean spending the rest of your life in prison. Or if we're talking about misdemeanors or, less serious crimes, it could mean staying in prison, staying in jail pre-trial, especially, pre-bail reform, losing a job, losing different opportunities. People have children that they need to take care of. So there's a great incentive to plead guilty, even if you're completely innocent. And it happens, very frequently in our system. And, it can take years for a case to go to trial. So that means, coming to court. It could mean being in jail in pretrial detention for years, waiting for a trial to happen. And again, the difference between a few year sentence or a 50-year sentence is so severe that it just becomes the most rational choice to plead guilty to a crime that somebody is completely innocent of. But in New York, unless there's DNA, there's absolutely no relief. And the case itself that established this was, it's involved a woman, Natasha Tiger. It's People versus Tiger. And in that case, she was a caretaker of a young child who presented with injuries. And it was believed at the time that the injuries could have been caused by the child being exposed to water that was too hot. And so she ended up taking a plea because the plea offer to her was for no prison time. And if she had kept asserting her innocence, that she, hadn't exposed the child to too hot of water, went to trial and lost, she would have faced a prison term. So she accepted the plea. It later in civil litigation came to light that the cause of the child's injury was medication that the child was taking. So she was 100% actually innocent. But the court said that there's no vehicle for her to challenge her conviction. And that's just absurd. We can't limit the ability of an innocent person to prove they're innocent. And in her case, she wasn't in prison, but there are people in prison today who pled guilty to crimes that they didn't do, and they have no way to get out because of this bad decision. There was also a case on, Staten Island that involved a young man, Serrano, who had been pulled over, and there's video cam of officers planting marijuana and alleging that he had marijuana that he didn't possess. And this body cam footage came to light. Now his conviction, he ended up pleading guilty because he didn't want to spend time in jail. And his conviction was later thrown out because of an illegal search. But if that hadn't happened, and it wasn't about the stop and search, he would have no way to get relief from his wrongful conviction, even though there's a video showing that he's innocent. So we have to fix this absurdity in the law. And the Challenging Wrongful Convictions Act has passed both chambers, and it's now before the governor to sign. But that's one area that the law fixes.
How how do we fix it? I mean, how would you amend the law? How would you do it?
Well, it provides a vehicle for people who pled guilty to make a motion to overturn their conviction the same way that somebody who went to trial and lost, if they have new evidence of innocence, can get back into court through post-conviction remedies. The law also importantly, provides an avenue if there's a change in science. It really clarifies how these claims should be handled by the court. So, for example, years ago, it was believed if a fire was set and there were certain, patterns, charring and different patterns were observed, that this had to be an indication that it was an intentional fire and it was arson. And then years later, the, National Fire Protection Agency issued a statement with regard to this after studies had been done completely unrelated to criminal cases, just establishing that these same patterns can be seen in completely accidental fires. So you've had people in prison who were convicted and prosecuted under a theory that a fire was intentionally set in arson. And we now know today that these can be electrical fires and completely accidental. So this new change to the law would make it very clear that there's an avenue for relief when scientific theories are invalidated, and we have a new forensic science understanding that people can get back into court to challenge their conviction.
Well, good luck with challenging the Wrongful Convictions Act, and hopefully you'll come back and let us know what progress you've made. We want to thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. All right, stay with us. Today's verdict has so much more right after this.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Can you see anything different as a pill?
No.
You don't know?
Fentanyl is being mixed into everything now. There's only one thing that will save somebody's life. That is naloxone nasal spray.
Fentanyl, it's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
Why would drug dealers put a lethal dose of fentanyl in drugs if they know it's so harmful?
Really just all about the money.
I just didn't realize that one pill could change your whole life.
More kids should know.
Is it time yet?
It's time.
Let's start time for dinner.
Oh, it's really good.
Pasta dinner.
Donating pet food is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Businesses in the South Bronx are about to level up.
When you invest in businesses, you invest in the future.
At Create Hub in the 3rd Avenue section of the Bronx Economic Development Corporation, Bronxborough President Vanessa Gibson, and Congressman Richie Torres announced the newly launched $10 million Community Advantage Loan Fund.
What we're talking about here is making sure that we are focused on those small businesses that have a need for working capital.
If accepted into the program, small businesses could receive anywhere from a $5,000 to a $350,000 loan to help purchase equipment and upscale their business to prevent doors closing.
Unspent money that's remained on the table since 1994 when Bill Clinton was president. And all these years, 20 years, this money has never been spent. Now we have an opportunity to create that access for small businesses for our foundation, the fabric of our communities.
Now, for those who may not qualify for the loan, Walsh recommends that business owners don't give up because there are other alternatives.
We want to start there. We will refer those candidates to small business development centers, but we don't want businesses to give up. We want them to reach out, and if we could help them in another way, we'll do that.
For business owners like Gabriel Cancella, who owns Sneakeresque, a sneaker cleaning business, this program is a game changer. Cancella says he gets great feedback from his growing clientele, even though he is the only person involved in the business. He emphasizes how this loan could help expand his inventory, staff, and branding.
It can really help pay employees, production, labor, and anything extra. I would love to get into getting deliveries, paying people to do deliveries, shipping, all of that stuff would definitely help my business.
The applications for the Community Advantage Loan Fund are now open. All involved are encouraging small business owners to take advantage of the opportunity to build a better Bronx. Reporting for BronxNet, Brittany Schuyler Albane.
All right, welcome back to today's verdict. I'm your host and trial attorney, David Lesh. We have returning with us probably our most favorite guest, and that is State Senator Luis Sepulveda from a senator from District 32. Great having you here today, and I know we're having a little audio difficulty, so you'll unmute yourself and speak right about now. So let us know what's going on in your district, and how you've been.
Well, thank you, David, for having me on. It's always great to be on your show. District is a daily work that I have to do, because you know that we have the poorest senatorial district in the state, and there are a lot of needs here. And I have the busiest constituent service office in the entire state of New York. I average about 30 to 40 people a day, and it's because of the need. There's high needs. People always need help with eviction prevention, food insecurity, a better education for their children. So, it's a constant struggle, but I look forward to it because that's why the people of this district elected me.
All right, let's get right into the inauguration of Brooklyn's All-Latino Judicial Bench. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, you look at the second department, which covers Brooklyn, White Plains, for example, Long Island, and you look historically there, that area. Some of these areas are areas where Latinos were just recently elected either to the Supreme Court or were elevated to a court of an appellate division in New York. And for the first time in the history of the appellate division second department, which is the administrative judge there is Judge Hector LaSalle, who should have been the chief judge of the Court of Appeals. I say time and again, he was treated poorly, and his record was assassinated and mischaracterized, but he's still leading the second department, and I'm happy about that. And for the first time ever, you've had a panel solely of Latino judges sitting on the panel. That had never happened in the history of the appellate division second department. Doesn't surprise me. If you look at for example, the Court of Appeals, David, it took us almost 120 something years to get a Latino on that bench, and Judges Cummins, Sir Patrick Buchan. But it took another 20 years to get Jenny Rivera, and a few years before that, Robert Garcia, who's a Republican. But the history of that court is such that it hasn't been very friendly to people of color and to Latinos especially. At the appellate division, the record hasn't been worse because we've only had about 20 judges, even though it's a larger pool of judges that can serve on it. We've only had 20 Latino judges serve in the history of the appellate division of any department here in New York State. So it's something that I view with much pride to see that an entire panel is comprised of Latinos. And that should be something that we should celebrate, especially during Latino History Month. That should be something that we should aspire to, but we should also work on getting more Latinos and people of color on the bench, because outside of the election process, in the appointment process, this state has nothing to brag about. In fact, in some areas, it's shameful. Like, for example, Staten Island has never elected a Latino judge to the Supreme Court. Now, David, I have to give credit to the governor, because she has made it clear to me and has demonstrated that she understands the issue and wants to diversify the courts. Same thing with the mayor. So we're working with people that are willing and that understand the issue and respect the importance, because we're not doing this to the detriment of any group, but it's a source of pride for us to have people elevated to positions where normally we have not had in sometimes decades have someone representing a Latino descent in those courts.
does it seem to be that there's a change in the environment now where we're looking to fill the void with Latino judges and Latino personnel? It's just a societal change. Where is it coming from?
David, I don't know if I want to. Okay, let's call it a change because, admittedly, there has been progress, but it's it's nothing to brag about. When I believe in the first time in the Appellate Division, First Department, which covers the Bronx, Sally Mansonet was the first woman, Latina woman, first Latina to appoint to that court in 2009. What it happens is that now you're getting more Latinos in positions of power who are working towards this goal, although. We're not working together enough to make sure that we get our fair share of the pie at the judicial table. And this also includes African Americans who have wonderful advocates for them. I myself advocate for that community because it's part of my community. But Latinos are doing much worse. We have over 21% of the population in New York State, yet only about 6.4% of the judges are of Latino descent. And, we have to remind everybody the hundreds of millions of dollars that Latinos contribute to the coffers of New York City, for example, and the contribution sometimes exceeds, for example, Nebraska, and I can't recall the other state, but we have contributed more to the GDP of this state and the city than some people do in entire states of the United States. And so we have earned that respect. We have participated for that respect. Latinos have participated in every war, including the Civil War in the United States. And it's high time that we get the kind of respect that we deserve, especially in one of the branches of government and being the judiciary.
I completely agree. What other things have you been working on in your district? What are things that you've been proud of?
Well, I to some degree, I'm called sort of like the Lion of Immigrants because that's something that I take dear to me. I represent some of the most marginalized communities in the state of New York, and one is the immigrant community. I am tempted to pass a bill with my colleague Catalina Cruz in the Assembly, herself a former undocumented immigrant, to shorten the time period for immigrants that are coming here seeking asylum to be able to get work permits, at least in New York State, especially those who are not covered now on the protection order, their protective status like the Venezuelans now. Because they've been placed in a protective status, they can apply faster for the work permits. But there are other immigrants that are here from other communities that need to work, that want to work. And so we want to facilitate that process. They can then pay taxes to the state of New York. I'm also working on this issue with the scooters on our sidewalks. I'm trying to pass a bill that's going to curtail or severely limit who the individuals that sell the scooters to, who can purchase them. We're working on that with the NYPD, who gave us some ideas. And then one of the big projects I'm going to be working on that I believe can be historic is to work with the mayor on reforming the property tax system here in New York City. There are properties that are worth millions of dollars that pay the same property tax as a property here, a two-family home in the Bronx. I believe that Mayor de Blasio gave us the framework, a committee he put together gave us a real good framework to modify the entire system. And we have to fine tune it with the current mayor's point of view and put it together for this upcoming session, because I think that in and of itself will help create more affordable housing in the city of New York and probably throughout the state if we're able to accomplish it. So those are three of the things that I'm really pushing hard for. Soon I'm getting discretionary money. So that's 90% of my monies I contribute to my schools and other causes. But those are some of the things that we're working on. David, my office has a lot of legal services for people. We have NYLAG and NICA that come in once a month and provide all sorts of legal services, including immigration and simple divorces, which very few legal services programs provide to the community. We're working every day for our community, and we're going to continue to do so. And I appreciate you giving me this platform to allow people to know how they can come to my office and get assistance.
It's our pleasure. And thank you very much for coming on. And hopefully you come visit us in a couple of months.
You let me know and I'll be there.
Stay with us. Today's Verdict has so much more right after this.
Where did the time go? Somehow I lost all those years. Where did the time go? I don't know how I got
You've done the hard part. You quit smoking. Now do the easy part and get scanned for lung cancer. If you smoked, you may still be at risk, but early detection could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Councilmember Marjorie Velasquez announced the allocation of over $800,000 in funding to the New York City Council's participatory budgeting. The council member set aside $1 million of her capital budget for this process. It is the second annual participatory budgeting for the district, a moment where the community gets to submit ideas and then vote on areas that could use improvement.
They have conversations with the city agencies, right? Of those ideas. Are they sustainable? Can they go ahead and really work out? And then what does that look like monetarily? And so the city agencies tell us the pricing for that. And from that, then they devise like 7 to 10 different projects. And from those projects, then folks get to vote for their top 3.
Voting took place from March 25th to April 2nd. The 3 projects that will now receive funding are the NYPD, the district's New York Public Library branches, and PS 392 Delta School. Associate Director for the Central Bronx Neighborhood Libraries, Melissa Davis, explains how the awarded $455,000 will enhance libraries in the 13th district.
We are hoping that a lot of this funding can just be used to upgrade a lot of our technology needs. That includes getting laptops, maybe some MacBooks, also upgrading some of our AV if possible, and that would just help in the overall programming that we offer to our patrons daily, and it'll also allow us to have a variety of programs that they may not have necessarily had previously.
Part of the overall funding will also supply the district's police department with new Argus cameras to enhance public safety. PS 392 will receive state-of-the-art technology and lab equipment to improve STEM education. In addition to the awarded funding, Councilmember Velasquez explains how this entire participatory budgeting process could have a positive impact on children in the Bronx.
When we go to kids, it's to different schools, and the kids, the student body talks to us, and they're like, oh, these are our ideas. And we're like, that's great. You know, you can vote on that and you can put money behind it. And they're like, excuse me, what? And they understand now that they have a role to play in civics, right? And starting small, starting so young to understand this is what you can do.
If you missed your chance to make your voice heard this time around, Councilmember Velasquez says there will be another opportunity to submit community ideas coming this fall. To stay updated, visit the link below. Reporting for BronxNet, Kib and Aline.
Well, that's all we have for today. I'd like to thank both of our guests for joining us, and of course, you, the viewers, for watching. If you have an issue or a topic you'd like to see on a future edition of Today's Verdict, feel free to email me at davidlesh@bronxnet.org. Until the next time, know your issues, reach a verdict. See you in 2 weeks.